I thought my grandmother forgot me. Turns out, my parents stole everything she gave me and gave it to my brother, the golden child with a secret gambling addiction. But I didn't break, I rose. My name is Amanda, and I'm 19 years old. For as long as I can remember, I've lived in the shadow of my older brother, Henry. He's 2 years older, taller, smarter, and more charming. In our parents' eyes, he could do no wrong. While I struggled for B's, despite hours of study, Henry breezed through math Olympiads and standardized tests like he was solving a crossword puzzle. The golden child. The miracle boy. I never hated Henry exactly. I envied him. I envied how the room seemed to light up when he walked in, how my parents practically glowed with pride whenever they spoke of him. When he turned 16, they surprised him with a brand new car. 2 years later, for my birthday, I received a bicycle from a clearance sale complete with a bent kickstand and a half-ripped seat. I smiled. I said thank you. But that night, I cried myself to sleep. The only person who ever made me feel like I mattered was Grandma. She remembered every birthday with handwritten cards. She slipped me $20 bills when no one was watching. She promised me, during one quiet afternoon tea in her garden, that she'd help pay for college when the time came. That promise became my anchor, the thing I held onto when high school got hard and I felt invisible at home. When I got into a college in another city on a partial scholarship, I was ecstatic. I packed my bags with trembling excitement, said goodbye to the house where I'd always felt like a visitor, and moved into the dorms. I thought I'd finally get the fresh start I so desperately needed. Weeks passed, and I kept checking my account for Grandma's promised support. Nothing came. I called my mom to ask gently if she'd heard anything. Instead of understanding, I got a full-on explosion. Are you serious, Amanda? Grandma's having money problems right now. Do you think the world revolves around you? Maybe try getting a job instead of begging. I was stunned into silence. The call ended with her slamming the phone down. That night, I sat in the dark dorm lounge, biting back tears. The next day, I applied for a job at a cafe near campus. They hired me on the spot. The hours weren't terrible, and the staff was nice. They even let employees take home leftover pastries and buy unsold items from the previous day for cheap. That food became my lifeline. But it wasn't enough. Rent, books, meals, it all added up fast. So I picked up a second job writing online content for shady websites that paid pennies per word. I barely slept. My grades began to slip. There were nights when I couldn't focus in class because my stomach was empty. Once, the cafe closed for a week for sanitation, and I went hungry. My roommate, Sarah, noticed something was wrong. She shared her food, bought me toiletries, and even loaned me $50. When my laptop broke, I cried in the bathroom. Certain I was doomed, Sarah loaned me $500 from her parents. I wrote every cent in a notebook, swearing I'd pay her back. Meanwhile, Henry was supposedly thriving in college. My parents bragged about him constantly. He was too busy with studies to come home, they said. I tried texting him sometimes. His replies were short, vague, distant, but I figured he was busy. Like they said, everything changed last weekend. I saved up to visit home for Grandma's birthday. Despite having almost nothing, I scraped together enough for a bus ticket and a small gift, a framed photo of us from my high school graduation. She had always loved pictures. The party was already going when I arrived. The house smelled of cinnamon and roast chicken, and laughter echoed through the halls. Everyone was there except Henry. Where's Henry? I asked, hugging my mom quickly. Oh, he's swamped with exam prep, Dad said quickly. He sends his love. I nodded and took my seat at the dining table, which was groaning under the weight of food. My stomach growled embarrassingly loudly. I tried not to look too eager as I filled my plate. During dinner, my cousin Tyler squinted at me across the table. Damn, Amanda, why are you so skinny? You've lost a ton of weight. Before I could respond, my mother jumped in. Oh, you know these college girls? Intermittent fasting, trendy diets. I opened my mouth to correct her, but Grandma spoke first. Tyler's right. Amanda, you're too thin. Her eyes narrowed with concern. Isn't the $1,500 I send you every month enough for food? My fork clattered against the plate. What money? My voice was barely a whisper. Grandma, I haven't gotten any money from you. Not since I started college. The dining room fell silent. Everyone looked between me and my parents. Robert, Elizabeth, Grandma said, her voice dangerously calm. Would you care to explain? Mom's lips trembled. Mother, this is a complicated situation. Perhaps we shouldn't tell us what you did with Amanda's money, Grandma said sharply. And if you don't, tell us everything right now. I'm going to the police. Mom burst into tears. Dad cleared his throat, eyes fixed on the table. We've been using the money for Henry, he admitted. He has a gambling problem. We didn't want anyone to know. We thought we could fix it ourselves. We thought he trailed off. My head spun. All those late nights working. All those meals I skipped. All those times I thought Grandma had forgotten her promise. Everyone, please enjoy the celebration, Grandma said, standing. Robert, Elizabeth. My office. Now. They followed her out like guilty schoolchildren. The party resumed awkward and stilted. My cousin Tyler patted my shoulder. You okay? I nodded, but I wasn't. Not even close. I tiptoed to the hallway and pressed my ear to Grandma's office door. I couldn't make out much, just sharp tones, muffled crying. Words like lying, betrayal, and no excuse. Back at the table, my food had gone cold. 30 minutes later, my parents emerged red-eyed and silent. They left without saying goodbye. Grandma returned, composed as ever. Who's ready for cake? She asked with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Later that night, after the guests had gone, she sat beside me. You're not going home tonight, she said. You'll stay here. I didn't argue. The next morning, over coffee, she told me everything. And that was only the beginning. Grandma sat me down at her kitchen table with a steaming cup of coffee. The early morning sun filtered through the lace curtains, painting delicate patterns across the wooden table. Her usual sparkle was dulled, her eyes rimmed with fatigue, lips set in a firm line. She wrapped both hands around her mug and took a long breath. I need to tell you everything I learned from your parents yesterday, she began, voice low but steady. I nodded, bracing myself. The chair creaked slightly beneath me as I leaned in, heart pounding. I never paid your tuition directly, she said. I gave the money to your parents. I didn't want to deal with online transfers. I thought I was doing the sensible thing, them to manage it. A sick twist coiled in my stomach. How much did you give them? They told me you received a partial scholarship, she continued. So I gave them $40,000 to cover the rest, but your full college fund was $100,000. They pocketed the rest $60,000. I sat in stunned silence, the mug trembling in my hands. $60,000 gone. Money I had never seen, never touched, while I'd been scrubbing coffee pots and writing clickbait articles for pennies. And Henry, I finally managed. Grandma's face darkened. He never went to college. I blinked. What do you mean? They said they were sending him to Riverdale College to help him get away from his high school crowd. In reality, he never enrolled. He's been gambling online, and off since he was 17. My head spun, but he was always on his computer when I visited home. I thought he was gambling, Grandma said flatly. I gave him $80,000 for college. I assumed he was doing well. They kept telling me he was. They even forged grade reports and sent fake screenshots of his student portal. They lied to me. For years, every breath felt heavier than the last. The stories, the photos of his campus life. The excuses for why he couldn't come home. They weren't just exaggerations, they were complete fabrications. And the monthly allowance? I asked, dreading the answer. I've been sending $1,500 a month for nearly 2 years for you, she said. Not a penny reached you. They used it to pay Henry's debts, rehab, and therapists. They've spent more than $250,000 of my money on him. It was too much. I pushed my coffee away, afraid I'd vomit. My mind raced through every night I skipped dinner, every textbook I couldn't afford, every anxious minute of waiting for a miracle that never came. I should have checked in with you, Grandma said softly. I had no idea. I just assumed. Your parents always said you were doing fine. I looked up, tears blurring my vision. I was starving. Grandma, there were days I ate leftover croissants from the cafe and nothing else. Sarah had to loan me money when my laptop died. Her face crumpled, but she quickly composed herself. It won't happen again. From now on, I'll send you $2,000 directly. Every month. No more middlemen. I could barely breathe. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Her voice was ironclad. This isn't just about the money. It's about making sure you can live like a human being while you pursue your education. Tears welled in my eyes. I don't know what to say. Just promise me you'll focus on your studies. That's your job now. And for the first time in years, I felt the crushing weight of survival begin to lift. The next few days at Grandma's house felt surreal. She cooked me homemade meals and tucked extra bills into my bag when I wasn't looking. We spent hours talking about college, about life, about dreams I hadn't dared to say out loud in years. I told her how I wanted to work in psychology, maybe even research trauma or family dynamics. She listened, really listened, like my words mattered. My phone rang a few times. Mom and Dad. I didn't answer. Grandma watched but didn't say anything. On the third day, she turned off the landline and smiled. They've said enough. When it was time to go back to college, she drove me to the bus station. Before I boarded, she handed me a white envelope. Emergency fund, she said. And, don't tell me you won't take it. I didn't argue. Back at school, everything shifted. The first thing I did was quit my content writing job. I kept the cafe gig on weekends, mostly because I genuinely liked the people there. I bought new clothes, real food, and finally paid back Sarah, who nearly cried. I told you I believed in karma, she grinned. And now it's paying off. For the first time since starting college, I wasn't operating on the edge of collapse. My grades improved. I joined a study group. I started reading for pleasure again. Life felt ... possible. 2 months later, I was studying in the library when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Grandma. Surprise inspection. She grinned. I nearly knocked over my books, jumping up to hug her. We went to the campus cafe, where she dropped another bombshell over sandwiches. I've rewritten my will, she said casually. You're my sole heir now. I nearly choked on my iced tea. What? Why? Your parents have already received over $250,000 from me. That was their share. You've earned the rest. But I don't need. It's not about need, Amanda. It's about trust. I blinked at her. You've handled hardship with grace, she said. That says a lot about your character. I didn't know what to say. I just reached across the table and squeezed her hand. She leaned in. But be prepared. Your parents might try to pressure you. She was right. A week later, they showed up at my dorm. I opened the door to my dorm and froze. There they were, Mom and Dad standing awkwardly in the hallway. Like they didn't know whether to hug me or beg for forgiveness. Sarah took one look at them, muttered something about a study group, and disappeared without a word. We need to talk, Dad said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. He perched on my desk chair. Mom followed, settling on Sarah's bed, clutching her handbag tightly like it was armor. I closed the door slowly, unsure whether I wanted to scream or cry. What do you want? I asked, crossing my arms. We heard about the will, Mom began. Straight to the point, huh? I said bitterly. Not even a how are you, Amanda? Amanda, please, Dad said. This is serious. We think you should talk to Grandma. She's acting out of anger. No, I said flatly. You don't understand what we've been through, Mom said, her eyes brimming with tears. Henry, he's in trouble again. I let out a dry laugh. You mean the son you chose over me for 2 decades? That Henry? That's not fair, Dad snapped. Isn't it? I shot back. Let me paint a picture for you. I've been eating leftovers from cafe trays, wearing the same 3 outfits for 2 years, and crying myself to sleep over a broken laptop while you were siphoning thousands of dollars meant for me. Dad rubbed his eyes. Mom looked away. Your brother has a disease, she whispered. He needs us. And I didn't. I said. What was I? An inconvenience. Background noise. We made mistakes, Dad admitted. We didn't know how bad things were for you. Because you never asked, I said. Because you assumed I was fine. Just like you assumed Henry would get better if you just threw more money at him. We were desperate, Mom said. He owed money to dangerous people. We couldn't let anything happen to him. So you stole from me. We borrowed, Dad insisted. No, I corrected. You stole. You forged. You lied. And you let me suffer for it. We need your help, Mom said quietly. Please, just talk to Grandma. Tell her you're okay now, that she can trust us again. I stared at her. You want me to lie? We're your parents, Dad said as if that still meant something. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. Amanda, no. You don't get to ask me for anything. Not after what you've done. Mom stood slowly, mascara streaking her cheeks. We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. They left without another word. The door clicked shut behind them like the last nail in a coffin. I collapsed onto my bed, shaking. Tara returned an hour later and found me staring at the ceiling. That bad, huh? She said gently. Worse. I told her everything. When I finished, she didn't offer advice or platitudes. She just sat beside me and held my hand. What are you going to do? She asked eventually. Move forward, I said. The next few weeks were like stepping into sunlight after a long cold winter. I focused on school, poured myself into my classes, and even started tutoring struggling students for extra credit. With Grandma's support, I had what I needed. I didn't think about my parents. I didn't need to until Aunt Kathy called. Amanda, she said, your parents sold their house. They're renting now. Henry's in rehab again. This time it's an inpatient facility. They say he might have a chance. I felt a twinge of something sympathy. Regret, but I let it go. That was their choice. I said. I know, Aunt Kathy said gently. Just thought you should know. That night, I called Grandma. Are you okay? She asked immediately. I think I am, I said, surprised at how true it felt. I feel sad for them, but I'm not responsible. Good, she said. You're not. Spring break rolled around. Sarah waved a flyer in my face. Miami. Come on, Amanda, you deserve this. My first instinct was to decline, but then I remembered Di could afford it. You know what? I said. I'm in. You're what? She laughed. Who are you and what have you done with my roommate? In Miami, I felt like a new person. I bought a swimsuit without checking the price tag, ate out guilt-free, and even went parasailing. For the first time in my life, I allowed myself to live. When I returned to campus, a letter was waiting for me. I recognized the handwriting. Mom, Amanda, we've moved. The address is below. Henry is in rehab again. The doctors think he might have a chance this time. We've been thinking a lot. We made mistakes. Big ones. We're proud of you. Love, Mom. No apology, no ownership, just a weak attempt at reconnection. I tucked it into my drawer and didn't reply. Grandma visited in late April. We had dinner at a fancy restaurant downtown. How are you doing? She asked over creme brulee. Good, I said honestly. I didn't know life could be this uncomplicated. That's how it should be at your age, she said. Your only job is to grow. I got a letter from Mom. I told her. No real apology. Are you going to respond? I shook my head. Not now, maybe someday, but I'm not ready. That's fair. Finals loomed, but I wasn't afraid. My psychology professor hinted that I was being considered for a research stipend. It felt like the start of something bigger. Then one night, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Amanda. A male voice. It's Henry. My breath caught. I'm calling from the rehab center, he said. Part of recovery is making amends. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I sat on a bench outside my dorm, stunned. I didn't know what Mom and Dad were doing with your money, he continued. But that doesn't excuse it. I was a mess. I probably still am. But I wanted you to know I'm sorry. I appreciate you saying that, I said quietly. I'm not asking for anything, he added. Just wanted you to know, I get it now. We hung up, and I stared at the stars above the quad. For the first time, it didn't hurt to think about my family. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't broken. I was free. The sun poured through the dorm window as I brewed my morning coffee. The rich scent filling the room. I'd never been a morning person, but lately, something had shifted. Life had finally steadied, and so had I. As I sipped from my mug, an email pinged in my inbox. It was from Professor Kim, the psychology department head. Subject, research assistant offer. I opened it quickly, heart racing. Amanda, we were deeply impressed by your application and academic performance. I'm pleased to offer you the summer research assistant position. Let me know if you're available to meet this week to discuss details. Warmly, Dr. Kim. I stared at the screen in disbelief, then let out a squeal that startled Sarah. Awake. What? Who died? She groaned, sitting up. I got the research assistant position. I shrieked. Sarah jumped out of bed and hugged me. I knew you would. You're a rock star now. The meeting with Dr. Kim went better than I expected. The work would involve analyzing behavioral studies, supporting student projects, and even co-authoring a publication if things went well. It paid more than my cafe job, too. I'm still keeping weekends at the cafe, I told Sarah later. Not for the money, just because I like it. Spoken like a true grounded queen, she teased. The semester ended with a flurry of grades and goodbyes. I finished with a 3.9 GPA. My old life, the one built on exhaustion, hunger, and disappointment, felt like a distant shadow. On the first Sunday of summer, I sat with Grandma on her back porch, lemonade in hand. "I'm proud of you," she said simply. I smiled. "I wouldn't be here without you." "You would," she replied. "It just would have taken longer. You've got steel in your spine, Amanda. I saw it from the beginning." We sat in companionable silence for a while. Then she asked, "Have you heard from your parents?" I shook my head. "Not since the letter." Henry's call was the only real acknowledgement of what happened. "Do you want to talk to them?" I thought about it. About the girl who once cried herself to sleep, wondering why she wasn't enough. And about the woman I was becoming. "Not yet," I said. "Maybe one day, but right now, I'm just focused on me." Summer passed in a golden blur of work, learning, and laughter. Dr. Kim became a mentor, guiding me through research papers and professional development. I was invited to present at a student conference in the fall. Sarah and I took weekend road trips, exploring nearby cities and collecting inside jokes. One evening in August, I got a text from an unknown number. "Mom. Hi Amanda. We wanted to say that we're still proud of you. Henry is still in rehab. He's doing better this time. We hope you're okay. No requests, no guilt trips, just words." I didn't reply, but I saved the message. For once, it felt like they were respecting my boundaries. In September, the new semester began. I moved into a shared apartment off campus with Sarah and 2 other students. We painted the walls a soft teal and hung string lights that made the space feel warm. It was the first time a place truly felt like mine. I caught myself smiling randomly, in the middle of tasks, doing laundry, walking to class, making oatmeal. Happiness had become something quiet, steady, and real. One afternoon, I received a letter from the financial aid office. "Amanda Blake," it read. "You've been selected to receive a full scholarship for the remainder of your undergraduate education based on academic merit and faculty recommendations." I stared at the words until they blurred. A sob caught in my throat, not from sadness, but from the sheer, unbelievable relief. I called Grandma immediately. "I'm so proud I could explode," she said, laughing and crying at once. "This is what happens when you invest in the right person." In late October, I visited my parents' new apartment. I didn't tell them I was coming. I needed to see it, not them, just to close the loop. It was small, clean, but worn around the edges. A tired woman answered the door before I could knock. "You must be Amanda," she said. "I'm your parents' neighbor. They're at the clinic with your brother." I thanked her and walked away. I didn't need to go in. That was enough. On my 21st birthday, Grandma threw me a small dinner party. Sarah was there, along with my closest friends from campus. After dessert, Grandma pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said, handing me a small box. Inside was a key to her house. "I added your name to the deed," she said quietly. "When I'm gone, it'll be yours. But until then, it's our home." Tears filled my eyes. I don't know what to say." "You already said it. Every time you got back up and kept going." I hugged her tightly. "Thank you," she smiled. "Just promise me one thing. Anything. Someday, when you're in a position to help someone who feels invisible see them." "I will," I whispered. "I promise." I stood on my apartment balcony later that night, watching the city lights flicker. I had a future. A name that stood on its own. A family chosen, not just inherited. And most of all, I had peace. Not everything was healed. Not everything was perfect, but for the first time, I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed enough, and I had it.